Hello, gorgeous Leo Pride, and welcome to March 2021. This month is it's giving me tingles, and every time I sit down to talk about it, there's something about it that is just working with me. And I don't know if it's just me, like in my own transformation, or if there's something going on, probably a weird combination of both, but I'm so excited to talk to you Leos today. March is powerful. It's very different from the work we've been doing the last several months, where there's been a lot of planetary shifts and eclipses and retrogrades. March, all the planets are direct. They're kind of doing their usual thing, just moving through the signs, going forward. We have somewhat adjusted to our Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius shift, though that's an ongoing saga in the opposing sign to Leo, right? And asking us to open up and be as bold and as courageous and as balanced as we can be. So that is asking a lot of the Leo clan. However, I don't think it's this negative heavy thing that a lot of astrology articles like to talk about, it being something that's going to be fatiguing and terrible. And I really don't agree with that perspective. I probably already talked about this, but Saturn's going to be working with you all your life, somewhere in the sky. And running from it and castigating it doesn't really do anything. It's not interesting to me. However, this month is about a lot of other things. We're obviously moving through Pisces season. So we have a new moon moving through there. We have the sun, Venus moving through there. Mercury joins them on the 15th. So the first few weeks of the month are really Pisces heavy. And this has a lot to do with transformation for Leos. Changing shape. Activating new parts of yourself. Exploring. And then we of course hit the equinox, which is a beautiful place in the year. There's 2 of these every year, and the March equinox is such a beautiful place of rebirth, balancing, understanding how we're growing, and boldness. Because then we hit Aries season, which is your 9th house. Very powerful for Leos to have that fellow fire energy starting to get lit up. So the sun and Venus move very quickly into Aries around the 20th, 21st, and we start working with that fire energy. So really, really fun energy for Leos, and it really helps reopen your mind. Now, I had a really specific note for Leos, and I love it because I think it speaks to the depth of experience Leos have been having in the last year, last 6 months even, since Leo season. I was thinking about the concept of the haunted house, and I've talked about this before. Like, a lot of us humans have this haunted house in our minds. It's a place we go, and often in that haunted house, it's the scary things that can happen. It's the place where maybe we're not worthy, where maybe things are going to fall apart, where maybe we're not allowed to be happy. It's kind of like the upside down, right? And through the looking glass, it's like this chaotic alternate realm that we can go to any time. And I often find when we are getting bigger, we're getting bolder, we're following our heart a little bit more clearly, that it's very tempting to go to the haunted house and check in there. Even though the haunted house does not give us great instructions for how to shine our light, for how to have a big open heart. It's a place where we go and we feel like maybe my heart's too big and I'm breaking it all the time. Maybe I should just go back to the haunted house. It's a place that we go that's somewhat comfortable. Now, here's the deal with March. It is a time of transformation for Leos. It is a time of skin shedding. And this is going to be a great month to practice noticing when you go to the haunted house. Or, here's the other side of it, when you spend some time cultivating a beautiful garden or a beautiful space. You can make it whatever you want. For me, I've been really enchanted by botanical imagery and garden imagery and the beauty of plants as a way to connect with something beautiful and alive and in process. So for me, I'm going to be cultivating that garden that I can go to, that garden where I can let myself shine bright, where I can feel my heart break open, and I'm allowed to do it. I'm allowed to be here. You're allowed to be here. We're allowed to be here. We don't have to earn our keep to be here. There's not some ledger book that's keeping track of how much pain and sorrow we've had and how much fun we're having and what's more worthy, because they're both worthy things that we're experiencing. And then a note came through for me when I was thinking about that pull to the haunted house, that pull to the shadow. That is so seductive for Leos underneath the surface. There's a lot going on with Leos. And, you know, I'm not even denigrating the haunted house. The haunted house is there. It can help us see things. It can help us put our toe in that water and remember, like, where we've been, where we're going. It can help us calibrate. It can help us remind us why we want to be in the garden of life, why we want to shine bright. It can be very, very helpful when you are ruled by the sun, which is so bright, right? It's just like, you gotta like sometimes go into the shade to be able to understand what the sun is. So it's a very important part. And so I'm not saying just screw the haunted house, just notice when you're going there, and then notice you don't have to stay there, right? And then this message came out for me when I was sitting with your energy. It doesn't require you holding the whole world up, lighting the whole world up in order for you to open your heart. Think about that for a second. I think sometimes Leos think, okay, if I open my heart all the way, I let my sun shine bright, the Tower. Oh goodness, that card just, and there's that Aquarian energy once again. Aquarian energy wants us to change shape, and it's Pisces season for Leos, which means changing shape. We'll talk about it more. Think about it. You know, often when Leos, I've noticed this with Leos, when they feel they want to shine brighter, they want to morph into their fullness of being, right? They want to, it's not even about morphing into something that you're not. It's about just like letting yourself be the fullness of who you have always been, right? Since you came to this world. There's also this like requirement almost, 6 of Wands. Oh, big, Leos do things big and bold. Tower to 6 of Wands. Let's go. Okay, here we go. Ultimate triumph in the end, right? There's this requirement that if you do that, if you let yourself be big and bold, 5 of Cups, there's a lot of transformation going on here, that you then need to carry a lot more. You need to carry more people. You need to carry more projects. You need to carry the whole world. And if you're not doing that, you're not worthy, so you better just dim your light down and put it down. So I really want to emphasize, you do not need to hold up the entire world in order to let yourself be open. King of Pentacles, man, that card is just, the King of Pentacles, I swear, he's here, there, everywhere this month. Very stable energy. And I think the reason that he keeps showing up is this. There's a lot moving. With all that forward motion, things are changing quickly and opening, and new doors are opening, and things are on the roll. And so there can be this illusion of swiftness and like overwhelm. The King of Pentacles is like, hey, you're okay. You're grounded. But let's talk about this, because this is a powerful reading. And once again, remember how my message was, are we going to the garden of life that we're cultivating? We're just spending some time in that garden, noticing the butterflies and the petals unfolding and the bird song and the way the sun is hitting the leaves and making them sparkle, or you know, whatever your visual is, watching the stellar jays and their heads and their opinions bop around. That's what I've been doing recently. I have some stellar jays that I watch out here, and some ravens that are awesome. Lots of time spending watching the birds play. Or are we going to the haunted house where things are a bit grimy, things are a bit grim, gritty, right? Chaotic, scary, out to get us because we're shining too bright. We're sticking out too much. Uh-oh, somebody's clearly going to assassinate us, right? And that's kind of what I'm seeing here in these cards, is it's a calibration. It's an understanding of which one you're choosing and how it's feeling. Tower gets a bad rap. And I'll guarantee there's going to be somebody in the comments that says, Sarah, you're full of crap, because the Tower means bad things are happening and you have no control over them. Maybe. Life comes with some surprises, right? However, the Tower has very significant symbolic importance. And we want to look at that. right? We want to look at understanding the power dynamics within ourselves. I've talked about it a lot. Helping my inner dictator or inner worrier, inner over functioner take more naps in my internal system, because that internal dictator often wants to keep me in this tower forever, wants to keep the light in there, wants to stay in the haunted house. The tower is the act of ousting that voice as the dominant voice in your vibration, as the dominant voice in how you move through the world, and what allows you to do things, what allows you to create, what allows you to exist. That is what the tower is about. It is about the ousting of that. And yes, sometimes that shows up as dramatic shifts in life because we haven't been listening. And our soul is done doing things the way that the dictator has been telling us to do it. So we have things shift, right? But if we're listening, all this really requires is just noticing that we don't want to live under that austerity anymore. And here's the thing. I always say this, tower, it matters where the tower is in the conversation. Context matters hugely for the tower. And for us here in this reading, the taking out the austerity voice means ultimate success. It means triumph. It means forward motion. It means shining bright. The Six of Wands is a card of victory. It's a card of total celebration in your bigness and your boldness, and in just owning it and just having the fun of being on the parade of life. Isn't that so much more fun than being locked in this tower? Just imagine, the tower, the people living in that tower are in these dingy rooms like the haunted house with very little light, and they can only see a small portion of the world, and it's very real and ever present. The person in the Six of Wands is open. He's looking at the landscape and embracing his forward motion. So there's a really strong impetus here. It's time to move into that garden of life. It's time to choose it, and to really deliberately choose it, because no one else can choose that garden of life for you. No one else can love you into loving yourself. Yes, I do. But here's the thing. I do believe that it's very powerful to have people around you that appreciate you and love you, because it helps. We need that help. However, they can only do so much. They can give you some perspective, and they can give you sense of safety. But in the end, you still have to choose. You still have to choose the garden of life. And I can really speak to that. I have a partner now who endlessly loves me, and I am so grateful for that, because it's helped me heal so many parts of my neurotic, worried, overachieving self. It has been hugely helpful. The amount of healing I've done in a couple of years is wild. However, if I'm choosing the haunted house that day, it doesn't matter what my partner's doing. He can be amazing. He can be doing so many beautiful things for me, loving me and sitting with me, not asking anything of me, and I can still be choosing the haunted house. In the end, I still have to choose the garden of life. Now, here's the deal. Yes, the Five of Cups is here. I admit it, the Five of Cups is in our reading. Here it is. Here's the deal as well with transformation and with swift movement forward. Grief is a part of joy. And there's a lot of poetry that speaks to this, that we often think of a dichotomy. There's grief and there's joy. And they're very separate things. They're separate seasons of life. You have one, but you're not going to have the other, and you have to choose. Grief is carving the container for joy, is often the way that it's poetically described. And that is the conversation. Often grief, release, feeling through what it is, how we have changed, how we are growing. Even there's some grief in letting go of the haunted house. When we start choosing that garden of life, we have to grieve that we're not just going to go sit on the sofa in the haunted house anymore. And we're carving out space for this forward motion. And here's the final message with that. And we're going to pull another card from my Cosmic Tarot as well. But the King of Pentacles assures you are safe in this journey. You're always accounted for. You have stable ground underneath you. You are allowed to be here. You are worthy. You are allowed to plant seeds. You are allowed to make long-term visionary dreams. especially as we head into Aries season. This is a time to open yourself back up to the bigness of your vision and to practice being in that full sunlight. So the King of Pentacles is a really beautiful reminder of that. It doesn't mean you're on the wrong path, that you feel big movement in how you're moving in the world. And you feel that hugeness and shifting into the garden of life. It makes sense. And we can get rid of the false dichotomy of joy and grief, because they're going to work together very well. A lot of our pain is from fighting that process. 8 of Swords. Okay, Leos. Oh, Leos. I'm pulling this from my Cosmic Tarot, and there's very vivid imagery in this deck. Quite intense images, I'll admit. But the 8 of Swords, right? 8 of Swords to me, it's right before the dawn. It's a card that almost always shows up. It's kind of a universal sense of humor almost, I think. Sometimes when we really are convinced we're fully in the haunted house, which guess what? 8 of Swords is like totally the haunted house. We can leave anytime we want, but we just keep wandering around in there. It's like, you can go, like, you don't have to hang out with these swords. But it's almost this thing where when you really don't, you really think, okay, I'm just dealing with what I'm dealing with. It's almost like guaranteed that this is the place where we often surrender. We just say, I don't know. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to honor this life. I don't know how to be brilliant, bold, and brilliant. That something comes in, that a clarity, a connection comes in. I almost always see the 8 of Swords in all the hundreds of readings I've done over the years. It always comes in as a card that recognizes a huge shift, a huge revelation, a huge sense of opening to what is next. And even, I just want to point out, like, the bottom of this deck is the Chariot, which is a card of commitment, focus, forward vision, movement. So this is a very, you can see these two characteristics going on in the reading today, right? Like, there's these really intense cards that are very much tied to that haunted house. And then there are these cards that are like, you're accounted for. You're moving forward. You have what you need. You're going to ultimately triumph. You're going to ultimately shine your light bright. And this is a dialogue you may be playing with all month long. But here's what I want to say before we close out today. Don't let any of these cards get you overthinking, stressed, scared, nervous about March. You're fine. You're going to do more than fine. This is going to be a beautiful month ahead for you. What's rich in here is what's going on inside. And the journey going from the haunted house into the garden of life. That journey is huge, and it will feel like you're having seismic shifts from within, and it's going to feel like, isn't the rest of the world going through this? And maybe some people, yes, but it's about that journey. It's about that stepping into. And it's also about trusting. You can put yourself through the turmoil of the haunted house, or you can just choose to stick with that 6 of Wands feeling more often. Choose it a little more often in your practices. I wish you all a really love-filled, supportive, connective, empowering March, full of self-love, self-respect, rest, replenishment, kindness, creativity, joy, self-trust. Knowing that you don't have to be afraid. It is not a requirement for you. And maybe you will feel it sometimes, but you don't have to. Just knowing that sometimes is enough soothing. I will be doing so much extra work on Patreon. If you want to support me, help me keep creating beautiful things, I would love to see you over there. I can really offer a lot there. And I also love being here. I really love being here so much. I'd love it if you liked and subscribed. It really means the world to me. You can also find me on my Instagram and on my website. So I will leave all of that info in the description box. And you can find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry on her Etsy shop. Take such impeccable care of yourselves, my beautiful Leo pride and family, and I will talk to you in April for more of this magical transformation. Sending you all my love.